bow our heads. Father, we just thank you so much for each one of these brave men and women that leave their homes every day and put their life on the line to protect us here in East Montgomery County as they strive to make this the safest and the best place to live in the world. We thank you for each one of them, Lord. Lord, we just thank you for the fellowship that you allow us to have here tonight. We thank you for the food. We ask you, Lord, to bless it to the nourishment of our bodies and our bodies to your service. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Actually, I think Martin was supposed to do this, and he just wasn't sure if his voice was going to carry through. But Martin, get up here. Come on, you can join me. Come on. Don't get bashful now in front of crowds.
I'm not bashful.
If you join us in the Pledge of the United States, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, we do the text. That's right. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
So this evening, just to get started, in a speech in 1983, Ronald Reagan, the great communicator, said, "Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid." We hold this event each year to say thank you to the men and women who are unafraid, to put themselves in harm's way, to protect our community, and to keep us safe. You provide an invaluable service that we could never, ever thank you enough for. According to Robert Kennedy, every society gets the kind of criminal that it deserves. What is equally true is that every community gets the kind of law enforcement that it insists on. And in East Montgomery County, clearly we insist on the best. As you look around this room, we're in great company. Before everyone takes off and prepares themselves for the evening, I'd like to introduce a couple of folks from our board. First, Chairman of our board, Brenda Webb. Another board member is Stephen Carlisle. Just hold your applause to the end. They might start dancing if you clap. Hold your applause. Just want to recognize individuals this evening, and then we'll have a round of applause. Dale Martin. Leonard Rogers. Richard Tram, Fred Wex, and Martin Zepeda. Catherine Pearson couldn't join us this evening and sends her regrets and absolutely loves this event, but just couldn't be with us this evening. I'd also like to recognize some of our elected officials. We have this evening Constable Rowdy Hayden with us. We have Alton Delaney with Splendora City Council. We have Dorothy Welch, the mayor of Splendora. We have Suzanne Soto with Splendora Independent School District. We have Alan Wells with Splendora Independent School District. And once again, a round of applause for our elected officials this evening. Did I miss anyone? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed Jason snuck in on me. He had his hat on. I didn't catch him. So Jason Cecil is with us as well. So thank you all again for joining us this evening. And once again, I would sincerely like to tell everyone thank you for being here this evening. It's very special for our community and special for our law enforcement individuals that's with us this evening. If you've not had the opportunity, does anybody know what's not across the street? Probably not. I think most of us have had some type of experience across the street with Valley Ranch, Gringos in particular. And once again, if you've not eaten at Gringos, raise your hand. Oh, there's Russell. You gotta get going, man. You gotta do better marketing. I think there's about 5 of us. So clearly Gringo's marketing strategy has failed. It's not 100%. So in any event, I think it's a great evening. We can thank tonight's speaker for believing in our community. You know, in economic development, it's difficult to recruit companies to come to communities that maybe not have the demographics and growth that other areas do. And again, it's a risk. Russell's a business owner, and it's a risk to come into new communities, unproven communities. And once again, it's not the acronym, if you build it, they will come. It's the aspect of our community is looking for new opportunities. And Russell provided one of those to us with Gringos. We're very excited for that. His belief in community and seeing the growth and potential and building a restaurant across the highway from us is absolutely fantastic. Russell Ybarra grew up in the restaurant industry through his father's company, El Toro Mexican Restaurants. He started his career in the kitchen, washing dishes, and learning firsthand all facets of the restaurant industry. He caught the entrepreneurial spirit early and started El Matador Foods in 1986, a tortilla factory in Baytown. Gringo's Mexican Kitchen came to life in 1993 when Russell had the opportunity to branch out on his own, taking over a building in Pearland that had housed 4 failed restaurants, and with the help of his brother Troy, Russell applied his philosophy of serving the highest quality Tex-Mex at the lowest price possible to the new venture. The community responded and allowed Gringos to grow to 13 locations. It also includes 7 franchise stores. Alongside Gringos, Russell and his team have developed 4 other concepts: Burritos, the Lunchbox, Burger Libre, Jimmy Changa's, and that now totals 20 restaurants. 26 years later, Russell's passion remains the same: focus on the food and the folks who pay his paycheck, the guest. Take care of what is important and the rest will fall into place. As president and CEO of Gringo's Mexican Kitchen and Jimmy Changa's Restaurants, he considers himself fortunate to serve rice and beans for a living. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening I'd like to introduce Russell Ybarra.
All right, hello everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I really do appreciate this. I love our law enforcement community quite a bit. I remember getting my first ticket when I was 16 years old and crying. It was a horrible moment. Let's see if we can get this thing going real quick. I contacted ignore the cursor there on the bottom, or did it go away? Okay, good. Well, anyway, a funny story. When I was 16, this is probably my 3rd or 4th time I got pulled over. I told the officer, I said, my dad just bought the police department a bunch of bulletproof vests. And he did. He actually, him and the mayor went out and they solicited funds and bought all the police officers these vests. And so the officer didn't know exactly what to do, and I drove to the ballpark where my dad was at, and he talked to him for a little bit. Later on, my dad said, don't say that, don't do that again. But anyway. Yes, I am the founder, the president, CEO of Gringos, although I prefer to be called the master enchilada roller because rolling an enchilada is the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's amazing how some people simply cannot do it correctly. I want to start off with this quote from Andrew Carnegie. And basically it says, the mind is the source of all happiness and all misery, of both poverty and riches. The use of the mind allows us to create friends or enemies. It is our choice. The limitations of one's mind are those that one imposes upon himself. I'm going to share with you my story, but if you want to stalk me, I'm basically Russell Ibarra. I'm not hiding behind all these different words and descriptions for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and that's my email. I keep all my posts on social media positive because I don't get political, and the main reason is because our dining rooms are filled with both Republicans and Democrats and independents. Our core values at Gringos are very simple: building guest relationships one meal at a time, fostering honesty and respect amongst our team members, reinvesting in our team members and local community, which I'll talk a lot more about that a little later, and developing a relationship of trust with our vendors, meaning if they provide us the goods and services that we need to do our job, then in return we'll pay them promptly. We pay all of our non-food invoices upon receipt, and all our food invoices weekly. And then of course, if we do 1, 2, 3, and 4 correctly, never being satisfied, we'll continue to grow one store at a time. Our sole purpose, uno purpose, is to enrich lives one taco at a time by serving the highest quality Tex-Mex at the absolute lowest price possible. In my 20s, my focus was making money, and when it was making money, I never made any money. It wasn't until I really figured that you don't go into business to make money, you go into business to provide the absolute best product or service that you can, and then things fall in line. The biggest misconception that a lot of people have about a successful person is that they started off that way. Although I did grow up in the environment of a business owner, my father, we had some tough times in the 80s, and it's a miracle that I'm even standing here. Most people believe that success looks like this. In reality, this is what success looks like. This is kind of the genesis of Gringos. Our family owned a building in Pearland, Texas, and my dad purchased it in 1981. And it was an El Toro, a family restaurant, for about 6 years, and then it shut down, just never did the business. And he turned around and leased it to 2 other restaurants. But even prior to an El Toro, it was a steakhouse that he had bought it from a gentleman named, I can't remember his name now. But anyway, so he bought it as a steakhouse and turned it into a Gringos, or an El Toro, should I say. And then it was a seafood restaurant and then an Italian restaurant. And then the building came vacant again. It went on the market. He would have taken probably $200,000 for the property just to get it off his back. And no one wanted to touch it because they knew the history of the property. So that's when I stepped in. I said, we have no choice. I'll give it one more shot. But that 485210 is a number that's seared on my brain for eternity because that was a no payment to Pearland State Bank. It was very difficult to make. And yeah, that's what the building looked like. Not much to look at. That's right, it was Gregory's Steakhouse. So that's the history of the building over a span of 13 years. Some of the challenges we had when we opened the property was basically we didn't have much money. I don't even think we had $50,000, but I just put that. It was basically $50,000, used equipment, used furniture, no liquor license. We didn't even open with a margarita license, and no proven concept. And the name Gringos, people always ask me, where did the name come from? And there was a restaurant in Houston on North Main called Dos Gringos, based out of Dallas or Fort Worth. And they had just recently shut down when we were about to open up Gringos. So I said, well, let's go ahead and go with Gringos. And that's how it came about, basically. This, I saved this receipt. This is a credit card receipt that I used. When I went to open up a commercial checking account, I had to have cash, and I didn't have cash on me, so I charged $200 to open up a commercial business account at Wells Fargo for $200, and you can't see the date there, but it's 12/15/92. So on opening day, we basically just painted the building. The property itself had a split floor plan, and those 2 windows to the left represented the dining room on the left of the building. Of course, it mirrored on the other side, and there was basically 25 tables on that one side. And I remember the day we opened, walking over to the other side of the restaurant where we had the neon sign there hanging in the window, and pulling the string and standing there waiting for that very, very first car to pull in the parking lot. And I remember when one did, it was a feeling that I never want to forget. It was one of just being grateful that here was a person willing to give this building another chance. So we opened up, and again, our main focus was to serve the highest quality product at the absolute lowest price possible, and let the chips fall where they may. On January 11th, we did $580, which isn't a lot of money. As a matter of fact, when I had the idea to reopen this building, I was told I was crazy, stupid, and I was going to fail, and that was just my family telling me that. But on January 11th, we did $580, and on the second day, we did about the same, so I thought that was pretty good. And I remember my oldest brother calling me, and he was one of the siblings that did not want me to open up that property. And he asked me, so what did y'all do? And I said, and I told him. He said, that's it. He said, close the dang place. We did more the first time we were there when it was a family restaurant. And I remember when I told him, I said, listen, so long as those $580 worth of guests are happy and pleased, they'll come back. And they've been coming back. As a matter of fact, whenever we open up a new restaurant, that's when I'm at my most paranoia, because when you open a new market, and even though you're busy in the beginning, those aren't regulars that you haven't earned them yet. And what you're trying to do is basically force them or help them create new habits of going out on Fridays and Saturdays and every day of the week for that matter. Our first month of sales in January of '93 was $27,000. Still not a lot of money, but it was better than what was there before. And in '93 we did $475 for the entire year, and then 900, and then 1.3, and then 1.8 in '96. And '96 is when we opened up the second Gringos in the port. The success of Gringos, well, today we have 13 Gringos, 4 Jimmys, 1 Lunchbox, and 1 Burger Libre. This has been our chart for the last 26 years, and it's obviously through growth and additional units, but it's a pretty impressive chart, graph, and we're obviously proud of it. Our sales in 2018 hit the 100 million mark, and this year we're projecting at least 106 with the new store that opened. And our AUV is average unit volume right now is 6.3 on our high volume service restaurants, not the lower, smaller concepts. The success of Gringos and Jimmy's has allowed me to live literally an incredible life. I've lived in life like a rock star without the paparazzi following me. Here we are landing a Memorial Day weekend in Florida to go stay at the Satai Hotel on South Beach. I've been to the San Fermin Festival, which is also the running of the bulls. And it's basically every one of the holidays in the United States all wrapped up in 7 days. It begins on the seventh day of the 7th month, and it lasts for 7 days. And that's the San Fermin Festival. And that's the opening ceremony, which actually takes place at noon on the 6th, but the first running of the bulls is on the 7th at 8 a.m. And that's us watching one of the bull runs from the balcony. I've been 4 times now, and I've taken a different group every time I've gone. The very first time I went, I was there on 7/7/7, and because of the date, there were so many other people there too. And the section I was in, we got forced off the course, and I don't know who the guys were in our group, but they started throwing wine bottles over the wall, and of course the police didn't like that too much, and they responded with tear gas. And I had never experienced tear gas before, and someone in the crowd said, "Hey, just don't rub your eyes, it'll go away." So he must have been from the States. But anyway, so yeah, the running of the bulls, it's an incredible event to witness. If you have a bucket list, I highly recommend you put it on. And every evening there's a bullfight. It's not really a fair fight, but the pageantry of the event itself is beautiful to witness. And of course, I've been, like I said, literally all over the world. Australia. This was at the Waldorf Astoria in Shanghai on the Bund. A beautiful place to have breakfast every morning. Hotel Ipanema Beach, Hotel Fasano. This was the 7th floor balcony, and the hotel only had 8 floors, and the 8th floor was the pool. And this room here was special because it was room 707, and the night before we had gotten there right after Mardi Gras ended, and my wife and I, and That room, Madonna had just stayed in the room the night before. And I asked them if they had disinfected the room, and they said yes. This past summer, I did go to Dubai for the first time. The most frustrating part about Dubai is that you can't find bacon anywhere, and that frustrated the heck out of me. Of course, the 5-star Burj Al Arab, Copenhagen, just kind of all over the world. I was in Berlin this past summer as well, the Brandenburg Gate. I met some incredible people along the way. John Paul DeGioia, Paul Mitchell products, or y'all may have known better as Patron Tequila. His daughter is a drag racer, dragster, Top Fuel, and she comes to Baytown every once in a while. And she just married recently Jesse James, the guy that does, he had one of those reality shows. I was on the set of Shark Tank with Mark Cuban a few years ago. Of course, met a lot of elected officials along the way. Here I am with George W. And back in 2005, I was on a short list to discuss Social Security reform, and there was only 6 of us on the stage. And of course, he's to my right, and he spoke for about 30 minutes. The event lasted about an hour, but he spoke for about 30 minutes, and I kept catching myself daydreaming. I said, dang, I gotta stop daydreaming. He's gonna ask me a question. I'm gonna say, could you repeat the question, Mr. President? But the most surreal part about this experience was every time he would pan over my direction, all the photographers are behind me, their shutters just start going off in rapid succession. And then I did something stupid. 3 years ago, I purchased a jet, and we used it actually to take some wounded soldiers to Walter Reed in D.C. Everything that I've showed you, literally, it's a miracle I'm standing here, and a lot of it should have never happened. I was a C student in school at best. I mean, at best. I tell people jokingly I have an MBA, but that stands for mop bucket attendant. And I have no college degree. I got married at 18, and we're still married today. We have 2 children. I had 2 children. We had 2 children by the time I was 25. I lost my house to foreclosure at 26, and I once returned a vehicle because I could no longer afford the payment at 27. And I remember dropping it off at the dealership and walking away from it and turning around, looking at it, and thinking to myself, I'm down, but I'm not out. And you know, you just can never quit, basically. And I failed at 4 different attempts at business in my 20s, and I failed so often that it started to feel normal. You say, well, that's just the way it is. You're supposed to fail. But you know, I just started applying principles in my life, and there was a book that I had read called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill, written in 1928. And within every failure is a seed of an equivalent success, and that is so true. If you want to succeed big, sometimes you may have to fail big too. I attribute most of the reason why I'm where I'm at today because of habits that I've applied in my life, and I think they're habits that everyone should apply because they're basically universal. There's no science to them other than they just make sense. The first one I like to do, and again, when we opened up Gringos, is about doing more than paid for, really offering value for whatever we serve. If you do more than paid for, eventually, well, for one, it's the easiest way to get noticed out of a crowded field, but if you do more than paid for, eventually you get paid for more than you do. We're always looking for ways to improve at our restaurants. Whenever we make a change in an ingredient, it's never a downgrade, it's always an upgrade, because we know if we do this, our competition has to keep up with the same thing. So we always try to do more and be better. Always look for ways to improve. Absolute perfection can never be achieved, but that should never stop you from trying. It's about always, every day, trying to be better than you were yesterday and try to be better tomorrow than you are today. This is a small example of how we like to do things at Gringos. This is actually, we took over a 2nd generation building for the first Jimmy Chongas in Pasadena. And this is in the dumpster area, a mop sink that our guests will never ever see. But it doesn't matter because it just didn't meet our standard in terms of appearance and functionality. So we basically rebuilt the mop sink. And again, it's an area no one will ever see. I'm not sure if y'all heard the story of Steve Jobs, how when he built the fence, helped his dad build a fence, that his father was equally concerned how the fence looked on the backside as the front side. This kitchen here, this is our Gringos in Texas City that we opened in 1999. And this picture is probably not even 6 months old, but our standards and our kitchens, our staff takes a lot of pride in what they do each and every day. But this kitchen looks better than most kitchens look after a few months in business. But this is 20 years old. And they'll take pictures of, and we have a social media page, a company social media page called Tex-Mex Storytellers. And of course, all the team members are on it, and they can post whatever they like. And they like to outdo each other. That's the fun part, seeing one store try to outdo the other. But they'll make sure the pots and pans are clean, spotless, and shining. They just love doing it. But this is the way the building looked in '93, and then of course this is Jimmy's in League City. And so we've evolved over the years, and again, it goes back to always trying to get better at what we do. Shot of the Jimmy Changa's kitchen. And of course, y'all recognize that property. We're hoping to put up a new one in Katy, so we're in contract to build another one at the intersection of Grand Parkway and I-10, right next to Bex Prime and Harris County Parkway. Martin Luther King says, "For it isn't by size that you win or you fail, be the best of whatever you are." And I want to talk a little bit more about that a little later. The third habit that you must do is honor your word. You know, in the 26 years that we've been in business, we've never been late on a note payment, and we simply just keep our word in anything we do. And it's so important because once you lose your word, you lose your credibility, and people just do not trust you any longer. So it's very important to always honor your word. It is truly the most valuable asset you ever own. Success habit number 4. Develop the habit of giving. And you know, a lot of people say, you know, I don't have anything to give, but everyone has something to give. Words of encouragement. You know, volunteerism is huge, and I appreciate all the volunteers out there. It is so valuable what they do for the communities, and the communities could not survive without volunteers, and I appreciate them 100%. I'm going to share some really neat stories about what we've done as a company. You know, I'm a big believer in conscious capitalism, and it's basically meaning and purpose beyond profit, and elevate humanity through business. And you can do both. You know, most people perceive businesses as being greedy, but a lot of them are not. Some are, but a lot of them are not. And it's important to support the businesses that do support the community and their employees. This is Melinda Johnson. Melinda works at our Texas City Gringos, and she's been with us about 9 years now, or 10 years now. And when I had received an email from one of her coworkers, and she had asked me if there was anything we could do for Melinda because she had a prosthetic leg that was giving her issues. I didn't even know she had one, but apparently she did. And it would squeak when she walked. She had to keep it together with duct tape, and it was just miserable for her to wear it. And she obviously didn't have the means to upgrade it or go to the doctor to improve it. So I sent my operations manager, John Fernandez, to go visit with Melinda and find out her situation. So he sent her to the doctor. She came back with 3 quotes: a basic model, a medium line model, and a top of the line model. And so we looked at them, and the basic was basically $30,000. The middle of the line was like 60 or 70, and the top of the line was 100,000. And so John meets with Melinda, and I gave John special instructions when he went to meet with her, and we were going to do the basic model for her. And he sat down with her and started talking to her and let her know that, and she was obviously very grateful. But then John asked her a question. He said, "Russell wanted me to ask you, if money was no object, which of the 3 would you pick?" And she paused and thought about it for a moment. She said, "You know, if money was not an object, I would probably go with the top of the line because it would allow me to do this and things that we take for granted every day." And so John told her, "Well, Russell said, if that's the one you picked, then that's the one we're going to get for you." So you're looking at an Autobot X3, the same that they buy for the military, prosthetic leg that she has there. And she's still with us today. Now this story here, some of you probably heard about it. Mike Huffman, and a Pasadena police officer, and his friend Larry Candelari, also an officer from Pasadena. They were on a hunting trip in West Texas. And as they were returning, they came upon an accident, and they did what any officer would do. They got out to assist, although they were not officially killed. Mike Huffman lost his leg. And I had noticed that in the Pasadena area, because our office is in LaPorte, close to Deer Park and LaPorte, Pasadena, I noticed there were some fundraisers going on to help him raise money to buy a prosthetic leg. He wanted to get back to training at the academy in Pasadena. And so we got with the family and we said, look, we're going to do something special for you. So what we did basically was this was 2013, I believe, we donated 50% of our sales from one day. It was a Tuesday, and it was a beautiful day at all restaurants, and we were able to buy him a $100,000 prosthetic leg as well. And obviously he was very grateful for it. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Camp Hope. Camp Hope is a peer-to-peer counseling facility here in Houston near the horse track off Beltway, and it's part of the PTSD Foundation of America. I'm on the board of directors of Camp Hope, and we had noticed, or I had noticed when I would go visit, that they had a closet filled with some gym equipment, and so we, when they expanded one of the buildings, we asked if they could dedicate 1,500 square feet for a new gym, and we equipped the new gym with all brand new Cybex equipment for our soldiers to work out who are dealing with PTSD. Jonathan Kim, well, to the left is Andy Roach, our maintenance director. He'll tell you he's the only Roach you want to find in our kitchen. Next to him is Heather McKeon. She's my chief marketing officer. She's been with me 20 years. Jonathan Kim in the white hat has been with me 19. And then next to me is Joel Perkins and Kevin Carroll. They're my two partners, franchisees. Jonathan, the gentleman in the white hat and sunglasses, we actually named the gym after him, called the Jonathan Kim Gym. And it's basically helping our heroes heal their mind, body, and soul. But Jonathan did something incredible this past Memorial Day. He did pull-ups for a purpose and was able to raise over $100,000, and he did 1,842 pull-ups in one day. He's 51 years old. Or he just turned 52, actually. No, he turns 52 next month. His wife is 30. And I said, this is because you got to keep up with your wife. And he said, no, she has to keep up with me. But anyway, Jonathan did 1,842 pull-ups in 10 hours, and it was an incredible thing to witness because he started off in the morning, obviously, very early. And a lot of the veterans there on the campus would see they have groups visit them all the time to do stuff for them. And so when they saw him setting up, they just said, yeah, sure, whatever. And then when they saw that he was still there 10 hours later doing 4 pull-ups a minute, on the minute, for that many hours, they were pretty impressed. And soon all the veterans there at Camp Hope were in the gym watching him do this. And he couldn't quite get to the 2,000 goal that he had, and he was not going to quit. Jonathan was simply not going to quit. He could have been a SEAL, a Navy SEAL, but I had to actually step up, walk up to Jonathan and say, Jonathan, it's okay, you did it, you can stop now. And he stopped at 1842. And then all the veterans were so impressed with what he did, they all stepped up and they finished the balance at 2,000. And he had one more of them, and Jonathan knocked out the last one for 2001. We did something recently. You know, the dishwashers in our company are the unsung heroes. They're the ones that have the dirtiest job in the entire restaurant. No one sees them. No one appreciates them for the most part, but I do. And we did a dishwasher appreciation week where we have 87 or 90 dishwashers throughout the company, and we honored them for an entire week, and we did a lot of fun stuff for them, a lot of goodies, and they really appreciated being recognized. This is a buster out in Texas City. Betel, he's been with us 10 years. He smiled whether he had teeth or not. And you know, we've done now 20 and counting, 20 complete dental makeovers for some of our team members. And it's amazing to see that person, the transformation it does for a person, to see someone come out of a shell that's been there all this time, but they just couldn't come out because of their teeth. I spoke recently at Worthing last May at Worthing High School. And I brought along a set of blueprints, and actually that set of blueprints there is to New Caney across the street. And I was talking to him about a speech that Martin Luther King gave back in 1967, 7 months before he was assassinated at a school outside of Philadelphia. And he was talking to him, you know, what is in your life's blueprint? And using a set of real blueprints, you know, to show the story, to illustrate the story. But, you know, a building cannot be erected very well unless it has a good solid blueprint, and the same goes for one's life. And he talked about two things that they must have in their blueprint. And the first one is basically confidence, self-belief in oneself, to know that you have worth and value. And so, and the second thing he talked about was talking about excellence, to perform excellence in whatever you do. And you may have heard the speech referred to as the street sweeper speech, but really it's what's in your life's blueprint. And this is the speech where Martin Luther King says, be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it is not by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. And it's so true. It applies in all of our lives. And it's a great speech, and I wish the kids would hear more of it. Number 5, surround yourself with people who make you better. As iron sharpens iron, so one man strengthens another. This picture here, I'm having dinner at one of my favorite restaurants, Armando's in Houston at Westheimer and Kirby. And to the far left is my wife, and then Derek, which is Joel Perkins' son-in-law, Derek Drake, and then myself, Joel, Jamie, and then Lindsay, Joel's daughter. Now, what's interesting about this photo, my wife taught the girl across from her kindergarten. So it's been a number of years. She has 3 children now. So it's been a number of years. But when my wife taught when I only had the one restaurant, and she would come home and tell me that one of her students, her dad was the general manager of Papacitos. And so that always stuck in the back of my mind, and I said, when I opened my second store, I've always told myself that I wanted to be like Papa's, and if I had any hope of being like them, I had one or two choices: either go work for them or hire someone that worked for them. So that's kind of how Joel came into the picture. But what I didn't know at the time was Joel did not leave Papacitos because he wanted to. He left because he was demoted, relocated, and his salary was cut by 2/3. But he was working at the Kima Cantina down by the waterfront, and at the time our family tortilla factory was delivering product to him, and I sent a message with one of the drivers and said, tell Joel that I'm looking for a general manager to run my second store in LaPorte. And so Joel and I met. I interviewed him 5 times. And I literally would have hired him after the very first interview, but I did not have the money to bring him on too soon because, again, I only had one restaurant at the time. But Joel told me during one of the interviews, it must have been the last one, because he's probably getting tired of just meeting. He said, Russell, if you hire me, I will run that restaurant as if I owned it myself. And those words were very prophetic because his first opportunity came in the year 2000, and he has 5 gringos today. He has Spring, Cypress Wood, Cypress, Fuquay, and the Woodlands. This picture was taken in the kitchen across the street. I did a combined years of service there. It was 147 years with how many people? 7. So that's quite a bit. Once they come work for us, they don't want to leave, which is a good thing. I'm a big believer in learning from my competition. I'm one of the few operators that actually love competition because at the end of the day, competition is going to make me better. This is Ronnie Killen. Y'all may have heard of Killen. Killen's Steakhouse, Killen's Barbecue, Killen's Burgers. And he just recently opened up a Killen's TMX, which stands for Tex-Mex. He opened a Tex-Mex restaurant in Pearland. And I reached out to him. I've known him over the years. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, Ronnie, if you want to come visit one of our stores, you're more than welcome to. And this is at our Jimmy Chonga's kitchen in Pearland. So he was out visiting with our tortilla supplier, El Matador. Businesses should view their competitors not as enemies to be crushed, but as teachers to learn from. I'm a big believer in that. I believe in hiring great interior decorators. This is the Jimmy's in Pearland again, and the entrance to Jimmy's in Pearland. Number 6, don't allow the fear of failure to paralyze you. Everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Fear is a big hindrance to a lot of people. It just stops people in their tracks because they're afraid of how other people are going to see them. But really, just don't. You have to battle fear head on to get past it. Most people look at fear like that, when in reality, they should look at it as a building block. And again, Napoleon Hill, within every failure is a seed of equivalent success. Failure doesn't scare me nearly as much as quitting. I had dinner last night at Perry Steakhouse in Houston, and I met this young man. He's 27 years old. His dad is 88, and his father's still working today. And it's just amazing. It just really inspires me to see that. Mark Cuban said, "I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't fail a lot. The good, the bad, it's all part of the success equation." And Sylvester Turner said that study people's success stories hard, study their failures even harder. You know, whenever I look at reviews online, I never look for the positive ones. I always look for the negative ones, because those are the only ones that are going to teach me something to learn from. And when we do receive comments, sometimes there's obviously can be a lot of emotion throughout the entire comment thread. What you have to do is dig through it and find what is the crux of it. What is it that you have to look for to resolve, so you can, again, not take it personal and still get better at the end of the day. Number 7, develop a sense of urgency. I'm a big believer in a sense of urgency. No matter what you do, I have Michael Berry practicing it today, because you know, if I like to respond as quickly as I can to when people send me whatever, in emails, calls, whatever. Because without sense of urgency, desire loses its value. Number 8, take responsibility for your own actions. Don't blame others for your situation. Unfortunately, we do live in a society where if something bad happens to you, it had to be the fault of someone else. But in reality, your worst enemy in life you'll ever meet is the one you see in the mirror every morning. That's the one that will do more harm to you than anyone else. Number 9, live below your means. Don't spend money you don't have to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like. A lot of people fall in that trap. I don't like to buy things that, I just don't like to buy things unless I have the money for it. Every dollar, you know, most people when they look at money, the first thing they think about is, hey, what can I go buy with it? But really you should look at, hey, how can I make it grow? Number 10, live your life by the golden rule. What's interesting about this particular habit is this is actually the last chapter of the book, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. And I had actually been practicing before I even read the book. But it's the last chapter that Napoleon Hill gives a lot of attention to, because obviously we know what the golden rule is: do unto others as you would have others do unto you, treat others the way you want to be treated. And that is true. All that is true, but he talks about it kind of a few steps before that. And really it's about your mind, the way you think. The golden rule begins to affect you the very moment you release a thought, not an action, but a thought toward others. And I truly believe that, well, here you go. Each of us are the makers of our own destiny. It is through our thoughts and our actions by which we will do our own making. You have to wish the best upon other people. You have to wish the best upon everyone. You shouldn't, you cannot, it's not the golden rule is not something you can wish ill on one person and well on another person. It has to be everyone, because when you wish the best upon others, you wish the best upon yourself. I'm a big believer in that. And I believe that's one of the reasons why I'm standing here today. And grateful beyond anything you can imagine. I want to share this story with you. This is Leroy Sandoval Jr. Marine Private First Class Leroy Sandoval Jr. I got to know Leroy when he was in junior high. My wife, where she taught kindergarten, she had a teacher's assistant, which was Leroy's mother, Zaida. And of course, Leroy had a younger sister named Amy. Well, when Leroy was in junior high, his father left his mom, and she had to raise Leroy and his sister on a teacher's assistant salary. And it was very hard on him. My wife Monica would come home and share the story, everything they were going through. So from the time Leroy was in junior high to the time he graduated high school, I would always send an envelope each month to the school for the family. But I would never write the family name on it. I'd always write Leroy. And below it, I would always write man of the house, because I wanted Leroy to understand the significance of his life. And this is a very hard story for me to tell. Even I've told it a billion times and I still get choked up over it. But anyway, I wanted Leroy to understand the importance that he played in his family's life. So Leroy, after he graduated from high school, he had worked in several different places, and he joined the Marines. And he got out of boot camp in December of '03. And so he calls me and says, hey Russell, I want to take you out to lunch. So he and his sister came over, Amy, and we went around the corner close to where we lived at the time to an Olive Garden, and he was thanking me for all the years of support. And I told Leroy, I'm very proud of you for serving our country. And so I said, look, I'm equally as proud of you serving our country as I am my son, who was attending an Ivy League school at the time. And so I told Leroy, hey, after you get back from your first deployment, because he's about to be deployed, I said, we'll go out and celebrate with a steak dinner. So we get back to the house after lunch, and I said, Leroy, wait right here. I'm going to go inside and get your Christmas present. Of course, I didn't have one. I had to make one up real quick, so I got a couple of Christmas cards in an envelope and put a check in each one and gave one to him and his sister. And I went back to my home office window, and I was watching them as they drove off. And both he and his sister, were smiling from ear to ear, as you can imagine. But anyway, I didn't realize at the time, but that would be the last time I saw Leroy alive. He was killed in Fallujah on March the 26th of 2004. And we dedicated we were the original Gringos, the picture I showed you earlier. We bulldozed that building in '04 and built a brand new one. It's still our #1 volume store today, which is incredible when you consider where it's located. But we did a dedication on the 4th of July. We're closed every 4th of July, and we dedicated that building a few months later after Leroy was killed in action in Fallujah. And we had, our restaurant has one dining room called the Toro Room. And the Toro Room has these bullheads throughout the restaurant, throughout that dining room. And we have 5 in this one particular room. And so we opened in June, but one of the bullheads had a defect, so we sent it back. And the day we dedicated the building to Leroy, we received the replacement bull. And I didn't realize it at the time, but the bull we got was soldier in Spanish. It's a little plaque that goes below the bullhead. And one of the things that Leroy, and again, I guess the gesture of helping the family all over the years, Leroy had told his mom, when I get older, I want to take care of you. Of course, you know, he passed away very young. But after he was killed in action, his mother started receiving these life insurance checks, quite a few of them actually. And she didn't want to cash them at first and she still hasn't really literally cashed them. She instead deposited them or invested them with us and has been living on interest payments for a while now, for the last 13, 14 years. So he actually did take care of his mom. In closing, let me, none of us can really predict our future. I cannot have predicted where when I opened up Gringos in '93, I could never have predicted where I'll be today. But we can shape it through the choices we make, the habits we develop, and the people we choose to hang around. And those are 3 very important components in one's life. And it's choices. You know, we all have choices. This is a story where every time I take myself back to '93, January 11th of '93, 11 a.m. when we opened up for business, and had someone pick me up and transported me into the future and dropped me, and told me this is what your future looks like, I would have never believed you. I would have thought I was hallucinating, or you were hallucinating, somebody was hallucinating. But this particular evening was very special, and it just doesn't happen to anyone. I'm very fortunate, and I pinch myself every day thinking about how it happened. But basically, myself, Michael Berry, and a good friend of ours, Jerry McGill, hopped on Tillman Fertitta's helicopter and flew out to Lake Charles to hang out with him at his casino. He gave me a tour of the place on opening night, by the way. And we hung out on his yacht and ate at Vic and Anthony's Steakhouse. And these things just don't happen. And I attribute them again to the habits that I've been trying to practice and teach my team members to practice. And it does work. I mean, it really does work. And we got to hang out on his yacht. And this was at our 25th anniversary dinner at Mastro's that we held recently, a little over a year ago. He came by to say a few words. And although I didn't graduate from college, I did earn a doctorate degree of humane letters from U of H 2 years ago. I do want to thank you for inviting me. I know you have lots of choices when you eat out and when you invite speakers. But I enjoy doing this. And a couple of some books I like to recommend: How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons, and The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. All three great books. And I do dress up every once in a while as Elvis, believe it or not. This was a photo shoot for a calendar that we sold 2 years ago. And peace, love, tacos. All right, thank you very much.
Once again, thanks, Russell, and again, welcome to our community. We embrace change, and again, great things are happening in East Montgomery County, and you're part of that. So thank you again for coming to East Montgomery County and bringing a great product that we can enjoy in the future. So we'll continue this evening. We'd like to recognize our Officers of the Year, as selected by the respective agencies for outstanding accomplishments. Brenda, if you'd like to come up. Brenda's going to help us with the trophies to each of you. The trophies this evening were purchased and sponsored by new Justice of the Peace, Jason Dunn. So I'd like to tell him thank you for doing that. Also, as you get your trophy for the awardees, please pick up your gift bag we've assembled for you. And there's items donated by our local businesses. After you've taken your individual picture up front, please go over to the stairs and there will be a group photo that will be done as well. So don't forget your group photo. So the first individual to recognize this evening is with the Splendora ISD Police Department, Sergeant Stacy Sherlock. One officer this evening that could not be with us, would like to recognize them, was Officer Dale Ferry with the Lone Star College System Police. I think the flu or the virus or something got a hold of him this evening and they couldn't be with us, so I'd like to tell them thank you. The next officer to be recognized this evening is Officer Henry Mestizo with the Patton Village Police Department. The next officer this evening is Officer Brian Smith with Roman Force Police Department. And the next officer this evening is Officer Marlon Harden with Splendora Police Department. The next officer this evening is Deputy Carmen Smith with Montgomery County Constable's Office. Next officer this evening is Detective Brandon Bartoskowitz with Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. And the next officer this evening is Deputy Nicholas Cook with Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. All right. The next officer this evening is Trooper Bruno Miaro, Department of Public Safety. Our last awardee this evening is Trooper John Sylvia with Department of Public Safety. Let's have one more round of applause for all these awardees. Again, we'd like to say thank you to Justice of the Peace, Jason Dunn, for sponsoring our trophies. We'd like to thank the following businesses and people for their donations to make this event possible each year. Best Western in New Caney. The bags that you see, a lot of these items are contained in their bags, so they'll go home and it's kind of like Christmas. So a lot of items are contained in their bags as well. So I'd like to say thank you to a lot of these donors. Congressman Kevin Brady, Buffalo Wild Wings, Chili's Bar and Grill, Cinemark Theaters, State Senator Brandon Crichton, Do It Best Community Hardware, Fishtails, Marks and Richardson, Gringo's Mexican Kitchen, Constable Rowdy Hayden, Hofbrau Steaks, Home Depot, Italianos, Jeannie's Florist, La Casita Mexican Restaurant, Martin Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, McDonald's New Caney, Commissioner James Metz, Rogue Stone Company, Texas Roadhouse, Trout Tire, Tune Up a Manly Salon, Walgreens Porter, and Walgreens in New Caney. And now we have some door prizes this evening. I think those of you that came in received some tickets for door prizes. And we'd like to go ahead and start that if you guys have, you got your bowl of tickets. Okay, very good. Isidore, you got your ticket? You ready? No ticket? Okay. Okay. You got a buddy there next to you. I bet you he'll give you a free enchilada. Okay. Okay. So the first item is a Carhartt pocket knife, and that was donated by Do It Best Community Hardware. Ticket number is 192220. 192220. Okay, last chance. Maybe any of our awardees may have this ticket. All right, for you awardees, if you look at your, okay, somebody had to have the ticket. Okay, there we go. We found it. All right. Donated a set of bath.